Hello everybody, welcome to today's live stream. Let's dive right into it. All right, a few questions. Is the bull run officially canceled until further notice? I will touch upon that shortly. First up is Ethereum. So let's start on the daily and work our way down. Actually gonna do the 12-hour for a little bit better resolution here. Okay, it was a little too low. Actually, no, that's just perfect. Because that lines up just right. Kind of a weird scenario because you have this upward expansion with a bearish expansion topping it off. What I can do is say that even though the macro isn't technically mean reverting, what we do have is a bearish 1-hour trend, which we can define. Awesome. Right, so this is the expansion. It enters bullish mean reversion here with the implied target of the 300 period moving average. So this is in bullish compression for the time being, and I think a lot of other coins are as well right now. Check out Link as well. Is this on? Yeah, I'm good. Yep, Link looks, it's right on the pivot. It's, until it crosses up above, this is still in a bearish trend. Next up, Win. Okay, this is full-on bearish mean reversion, still very overexpanded. Neutral compression from here with a swing low of -15 and a swing high of 137. So I'm guessing we can use this mean here as our support. Wouldn't be very reliable though, because again, it is a neutral compressionary condition. Check out BNB, quite the run. So daily actually doesn't have a mean reversion pivot. Let me explain why. So when we activate mean reversion like we did here, right, it means we have entered compression, and we will stay in compression until it reverts below 0.7 value. It doesn't technically have to mean revert. It just needs to compress. And that's exactly what it did. And afterwards, we saw ourselves. Is that a WPM cross? Wow, yeah, just barely. You have the 14 period crossing up while everything else is below 0.7, so clean stuff. But that mean reversion condition, which is still generating, is expired. So now, all we have is this bearish expansion. Which is not timing out. We're up to the 2-hour. Very clean. Again, directly on the pivot. So right here, make or break. If you want to short this, you have a very good profit ratio, or you just put a stop loss above the current swing high. All right, GBP USD. Okay, start on the weekly here. Weekly is bullish trend, well defined. Daily is very noisy and very neutral. Same with 4-hour. 1-hour, we might have something here. No. No, we do not. Yeah, no, I have nothing for you here. and it's okay to say that. I identify everything on this chart below the daily as noise. And I don't, or rather I haven't kept up with the fundamentals to give you a solid reading. So, let's check out Rose, shall we? Okay, pretty low stat coin here. Bearish daily trend. 4-hour active bearish expansion with a mean inversion pivot currently at 213, which is the 1.25 standard deviation of the 450 period. Okay, moving on. Let's do XRP. So 4-hour, we saw this bullish wave PM cross, which resulted in this trend, which has now immediately mean inverted, and we're gonna have to manually define that because it's not timing out on its own based on the 180 period. Way too many indicators there. Don't know how you read the market. I couldn't. Well, I put the fact down below. I explain it very thoroughly there. Everything on this chart is just a Bollinger Band. All right. This is a Bollinger Band. This is a CCI, which is a mean absolute deviation representation of a Bollinger Band. In other words, it's a Bollinger Band represented as an oscillation for the pivot of expansion and compression. Wave PM is the relative expansion of a Bollinger Band. How wide it is. All right. If it's wide or exhausted, it's red. If it's compressed, it's blue. So if you have a lot of blue readings like this, and then you start to get expansion and your CCI is weighted in a certain direction, in this case positive, it results in trend. And then when it ends up exhausted, like over here, typically trend will end once it reverts inside the 1.25 standard deviation, the empirical constant for the expansion and compression of any distributional period. And you get mean inversion. So it's just Bollinger Bands. And then this heat map is just the prior indicator represented as a heat map with the same red is overexpanded, blue is compressed. That's it. So it's one mathematical constant that we have pushed to an extreme. Check out MATIC. Oh, I haven't done XRP. Right. Right, so 1 hour should pull up a bullish MR here. Cool. Yeah, man. It is pretty neat. Bullish MR activated target. 188 moving average right there. Let's do, I think Bitcoin is on its way up. Took a trade at 32K. All right. Why though? Let's do Bitcoin. It's finally time. So last live stream, which was exactly a week ago, we popped our way to the daily chart on Bitcoin, and we defined ourselves a pivot based on, oh, did we do the 6 hour? I think we did the 6 hour just so we had better resolution here. Yeah. So what we did is we manually defined this. Oh, we did do it on the daily. Okay. Yeah, so we used the 500 period as our trend pivot. Yeah, we define it as the make or break point for Bitcoin, where I said it would be the bottom, but with the condition that it would be sort of a binary thing, whereas if it didn't bounce from here, then it would continue downtrend. I think we've seen that quite consistently. A cat with charts has been rather interested in the weekly MR pivot. She puts it at about 26K. So what I'm seeing here is continued expansion along our 3.2 standard deviation. And we're finally catching that upward relief here. But it's still pretty in line as far as the trend goes. Now, I think what we can do is if you really want to try to take a long here. No, this move up hasn't been volatile enough to generate its own period of mass. So it's a bit rough. Tough chart, man. So I think one of the initial sparks for this was Elon Musk announcing the whole Bitcoin scenario, saying that he didn't like the energy usage, but I think it's important to note, I think his company and him only owned like 0.1% of the market cap. So it wasn't really that of a bearish fundamental. It was just him being in the spotlight. China banned Bitcoin for the 100th time now, I guess. You know, whenever the price goes too high and people want to push it down, China increases the restrictions. So I'm not really a believer of that fundamental. I think it's just fear and panic right now. And I think what's important to realize, let's go to the BLX chart over here. Oh my God, are we going to use a Fibonacci retracement? I think we are. Let's do it. Why not? Take me to log, baby. Yeah, we've had our first initial bearish impulse as compared to the prior bull run. But here's the thing about trying to compare tops, right? I could just do this. Boom, baby. You want to compare this top to that top? I don't. Why? Well, because we have some foresight to know that this wasn't the top. That was just a bearish impulse. So what's the deal? We've had a bearish impulse. We're getting a new green weekly candle. Personally, I'm still holding my altcoins. Mostly because if we look at a macro level time frame, right, what we notice is that Bitcoin will always stabilize and see repeated swing highs and multiple opportunities to jump ship if we actually do enter an extended bear market. So typically, if we see a high here and we start to falter, I might consider dropping some bags. But in all likelihood, the drop from this swing high to that swing high is 10%. So I would probably wait for the secondary bearish impulse before I attempt to sell. So we have our move up, we have our dip. If we get to here, we can either resume trend or see a secondary bearish impulse. If we see the second one, and we're going to get the bounce, I'll sell that top there and then let compression occur. But for now, I think it's too early to say that trend is over. So that's my definitive opinion, and that, yes, is an opinion. This is far more flexible analysis than I will typically do for a coin. But because this is macro level trend analysis and we're comparing tops, I'm inclined to eat the 10% and just take the secondary bearish impulse rather than the primary. Because, you know, think about it as just a trade with a stop loss, right? Where if we recover and have a secondary bearish bounce and then we bounce up, right, we lose 10% from where we currently are. I'll be selling 10, 20% maybe. Whereas the upside is just trend continuation, and well, you know how ridiculous that can get. So, because this is the weekly, and because I'm talking about my holdings, I'm inclined to hold until we get confirmation of a secondary bearish impulse before I would consider selling. And in that scenario, I would sell the swing high of the bounce. All right, get your final questions in. Take a look at TEL. Wow. What a party. This is flagging out way too hard. Like, the best I can offer you is wait for the 4-hour compression, so you get you know, all levels below 0.7, and then attempt to trade the breakout on whichever way the wave PM cross ends up being, either bullish or bearish. Okay, looks like that's it, folks. It's been a pleasure. I'll talk to you all Thursday, okay? Ciao.